Thanks for joining us Behind the Frontline, a podcast providing timeless solutions to everyday workforce and workplace challenges. Frontline Training Solutions is an express employment professionals company, strategically placed between the workplace and the workforce with professionals standing by, ready to combat your unique challenges. Learn more about what we do at frontlineon.com. Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Frontline, where today I am joined in the studio with Steve Ramus, who is our Director of Corporate Sustainability, Governance, and Disclosure at H.B. Fuller. I told Steve before the podcast, that's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
But I think I did it right.
You did good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. We're also joined with Janis Petrini, who is the co-owner and founder of not just Frontline Training Solutions, but also 30 years of express employment professionals in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and also a specialized recruiting group here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. How you doing, Janis?
Doing great. Great to be here with you, Nic.
Thank you. I love Janis, and obviously she's the co-owner and founder of Frontline Training Solutions and everything we do here. So I'm so excited that you're here in the studio with us today to have this conversation. And congratulations on 30 years in business for express employment professionals.
Thank you so much. It's an amazing milestone year with an amazing team. So grateful.
And of course, I'm Nic Dampier, Creative Director here at Frontline Training Solutions. And we are going to be talking a bit about the webinar that we just had called The Giving Advantage. Steve actually hosted that webinar for us and presented. And so Steve, I was hoping you could kick off today's podcast by just simply talking about the webinar a little bit and some of your main talking points and just the Giving Advantage.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it. So the webinar was The Giving Advantage. It was about how companies that invest in their community, the benefits that they receive out of that. So whether it's higher engagement with their employees, lower turnover, lower absenteeism, there's irrefutable evidence that shows that companies that invest in their community reap the benefits from an employee perspective. So I just kind of covered some of the highlights of that, gave some examples of what some good programs look like, what are some common programs that companies do, and went through some of my favorites. It was fun.
Yeah, I love it. And it was such a well-done webinar. You did a great job on it. We encourage you to go watch it. It's free on our archive, along with about 60 other webinars that you could choose from, all free on the archive. Please go watch those. It's just so much good information for you and for your leaders and for your team, and just how you guys can grow and get better as a company. So Steve, I asked this question in the webinar, and it's one of my top burning questions in my head as you were presenting. But when people hear CSR or corporate social responsibility, when people hear that term, they're often thinking of large corporations, all right? Formal foundations, major donation programs, but how would you define corporate social responsibility in a way that applies to companies of any size?
That's one of the biggest misconceptions. Actually, I would argue all day long that smaller companies, smaller private companies in particular, have a much easier go of doing CSR than the larger ones do, because there's less bureaucracy and less people that they need to convince, right? So corporate social responsibility, there's a number of different definitions for it, but view it as your company's contract with society, right? What are you doing? How are you creating shared value? Like I said, the smaller companies can actually do that a little bit easier. They can actually have more you could say more intimate and more authentic engagement with the community around them. So, and the benefits are still the same. Small or large, the companies that really invest and really, they encourage their employees to get engaged. They reap the benefit of that from a productivity standpoint and minimum and culture.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, here at Frontline and, of course, Express Employment Professionals and Specialized Recruiting Group, but particularly Express Employment Professionals, 30 years, like we were just talking about. Janis, from your perspective as a local business owner here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, how do you think about giving back as a part of the identity and responsibility of Express Employment Professionals of Grand Rapids?
That's such a good question, Nic. But I think I've always felt that as a small business owner, our community is our ultimate customer. And so we're helping people to find meaningful work every single day. All of those people have families. They're all contributing to our community. So certainly helping people find a job is a great way to make an impact in someone's life. But beyond that, we know that everybody has different struggles. And so we're engaging with all of our community partners. We're trying to be one piece of a circle of support, but we know that engaging with all kinds of other community partners will provide other circle of support for people to thrive. So I not only think it's the right thing to do, I also think that we should inspire generosity in everything we do. And as small business owners, we should have open arms and open hands to really give back to our community, because our community is only as strong as our most vulnerable community members. So we have so many layers of purpose in the work that we do here. Our internal employees, certainly we want to care for them well and help them to thrive, but all of the people that we're serving, we also want them to have really thriving lives. And so anywhere that we can be a part of that, we want to be a part of it.
Well, and it's a great example. Just to go back to the question you asked me, and they think of larger corporations. I mean, this is a great example. I mean, I'd say, and correct me if you feel differently, but part of the reason you've been successful for 30 years is all the goodwill that you've been building up and all the networking and partnerships that you've created locally. I mean, you don't get that just by doing your job, right? You get that by reaching out and having those positive relationships and being engaged with the community. I mean, that's, so like I mentioned, smaller companies, this is oftentimes more pertinent to them than the larger ones.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do here at Express is something called Branded Blue. And we just recently wrapped it up here at Express Employment Professionals. So I was wondering, for our participants, Branded Blue just is a phrase, but could you real quick just talk about what we do here, and as part of what we do at Express Employment Professionals, what Branded Blue is, and just kind of the social impact that we're having on the community that way?
Absolutely. The funny thing is that our desire for Branded Blue was never to say, oh, we're going to have this great social impact, or we've got this really strategic idea to really make this a part of our program. It was just really something that we wanted to do as a team. So years and years ago, we started Branded Blue, and we saw the need in our community with our community partners. They had needs. They were doing such good work. They were serving and helping the people that we serve. So we decided to pick a different organization every year and really help our companies to get introduced to the amazing partners that are in our community. So we developed a program, sort of a toolkit that said, hey, we're going to support this organization. We'd love you to come alongside us and partner with donation drives. We'll do the whole thing for you, so you don't have to spend any calories doing it to our clients. And we started educating them on different nonprofits every single year. We do a month-long drive for this particular nonprofit. We'd partner with a volunteer drive at the end of it. And we would also, every single week and leading up to it and after it, talk about this community partner to everybody, all the clients in our database. And so this beautiful thing started happening, is that companies started getting connected to these community partners. And then as they got connected to them, they decided that maybe they could do more, even beyond Branded Blue. So we've sort of grown this army of wonderful companies that are now partnered with these different nonprofits. They're doing things on their own. We just happen to be the bridge builder to lead them to it. And so it just has been a wonderful thing to see. And you just never know what's going to touch someone as well. It's been such a blessing to us, because we try to pick different organizations and sort of different needs in our community, certainly, that we recognize our needs. But some of the stories that have come out of it have been amazing. Some of our leaders at companies, we end up hearing a story from their childhood that connected them to this nonprofit, and some of their employees have received services. And so all around, it has just been, has had amazing impact. And it's also a way for us. Companies don't have time. Sometimes they want to do something. They want to have a wonderful impact. They just don't have the bandwidth capacity, and they don't know how to get started. So this has been a way for us to say, don't worry. We're going to help you get started. We're going to introduce it to you. We're going to do all the heavy lifting, and you can get to know some of these amazing partners in our community. And you can, if you want to continue partnering with them, great. But it's sort of been a great way to help companies really start their own giving program. So It's been so fun.
That would always be my advice to nonprofits. Any charity or nonprofit that would come up to us looking for a donation or looking for involvement from the company. my advice to them is make it easy on us, because yes, I mean it's over capacity and it's about balancing time. But I've always felt it's not necessarily a matter of having time; it's a matter of making time. For me, it was more about distraction management, and that's how it kind of tends to be in the professional world: is distraction management. Come in, make it easy on me, then I'll be way more likely to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love so much about what both of you just said, but Janis, what you just said, that we're literally helping companies develop the CSR in their companies. Those that don't have time, just making it easy for them. What I love so much about Janis is she is a genuine commitment to social impact, and that's what we've developed, our businesses around in a lot of ways. But Steve, I'm curious, other than lack of time, what do you think separates a company that gives back because it looks good from one that has genuine commitment to social impact?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it starts with the leadership. I mean, you have a leader that's as high up as you can go of the company. If they're authentic in it and they believe in it, then that permeates throughout the organization. So, some companies are going to be fortunate to have that built in up front, in which case, you know what, HR or operations or the other leadership build around that, because that's gold, right? For those that who may not have that then sometimes you got to start from the grassroots, and you got to start highlighting what employees are doing on their own time, and maybe use the excitement and momentum from that to kind of springboard off of. Maybe inspire an executive or a senior leader in your sites to go from there. So that's what I've always done. It's like, all right, I don't have a passionate executive. If I do, I'm using them for sure. If I don't, who are passionate people that I can get a grassroots thing going and organize a communications campaign around?
Yeah, no, I love that. So it's a question for both of you. When community involvement is done well, how do you think it changes the way employees feel about the company they work for?
Well, every person wants to be connected to a purpose. They want their work to be meaningful and purposeful. And so I think being able to connect them to not only their work, but how their work makes a difference, and especially if your impact is connected to that. So for instance, we might be helping someone find a job, but they're escaping domestic violence, they're food insecure, they're housing insecure, they need a bigger circle of support. When you have the ability to know that as a company, you can connect people to those resources, not only are we volunteering there, we're giving, we're sponsoring, and we're actually bringing projects in-house to work. For example, at our kickoff meeting, we put kits together for people that are unhoused and experiencing homelessness, like hygiene kits, things like that. The employees felt so good about it, but they also help them to understand what the reality is for someone who might be currently unhoused. So always connecting to that meaning and purpose. I think certainly we've seen engagements up, hopefully retentions up, and just the why of why we do our work, when you can connect people to that and the difference that they're making, and also just helping people to be successful, is just so important at all times. So we've definitely seen that in our organization, and we've seen that we're open to people joining boards, we're open to people volunteering, we're open to people bringing up ideas about different ways that we might engage with our community, and creating resource lists and all of those type of things, so that we can connect all the dots. And so it's really about helping people to thrive. So
It's great.
Yeah, everything Janis said, absolutely, tying to purpose. I guess from a how it feels perspective, I didn't really notice this as much until it was gone, till the pandemic hit, and but to me, if you have a successful successful CSR community program, one of the ways it manifests within a company is that I go walking down the hallway or walking down the street or grabbing lunch, and hey Steve, hey Steve, hey Steve. Suddenly, people seem to know each other a little bit more. People within the community, within the company. Where we were at was an extremely large site. It had well over 3,000 people, and to feel like I'm a celebrity, and then to realize it's not just me that feels that way. There's an entire community that's we just have more exposure to each other because we're all doing things with each other off-site. Whether we're packing food for kids' food basket, or donating time to to whatever, local library even. I was exposed to so many people around the company that I haven't been exposed to before. And so in hindsight, it's one of those things that, all right, it definitely felt like had more of a family feel, as big as that was, yes. Felt a sense of community, and but it was very subtle. I actually didn't even realize it until it was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I associate with it. And, we always joke, those are the good old days when you can go back to that, when we just had a bigger network, bigger circle, friends. We look forward to coming into work more. And it was just it all hinged around being more engaged.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, we've talked a bit at Frontline about an employer brand. And a lot of this is really just strengthening that employer value proposition towards employees of how, when you take away factors of, money and time off, or you take away all those things, why is an employee drawn to a company? Why are they drawn to stay at a company? And really it falls within the purpose, impact, and belonging. And that is giving them the opportunity to have impact in their community around them. And Janis, you mentioned before we started the webinar that you just read some of the most recent demographics. What is our current demographic of unemployment? And I want to tie this into
well, right now in West Michigan, we're back to 2018 levels of unemployment. So we're down to like 3.6 right now, which is very low. That's 2019 levels. So, there's definitely West Michigan is low, Michigan is low, and really the national average is, I think, 4.2. So everybody's working, and if they're not working, then certainly there's a competition and a war for that talent.
Yeah. When it comes to that war for talent, Steve, the webinar focus pretty heavy on the connection between social responsibility and talent. And so why do both of you think that the community involvement has become such an important part of how people evaluate where they want to work?
Yeah, I don't know if it's become an important part. I think it always has been.
Good.
So I don't think it's a new thing at all. In fact, I like to think that companies are rediscovering it if you see an uptick in some of the discussions on it. So, yeah, and I really don't understand why companies don't do it more often, because what I learned is I can save a few $1,000s on some sort of big, lavish team building event. Heck, I made some of the best work friends by picking up trash alongside the road, and that was not fun. But boy, did it make some meaningful relationships. Some of the best leadership training that I've got was leading coordinating a cancer prevention study for the entire company. The people that I connected with and the leadership that I got practice with. Yeah, so stop spending all this money or instead of spending all this money on all these fancy things, stop and think, all right, it's creativity before capital. Can we leverage something? Let's connect with the local United Way, or with the local, or even a Chamber of Commerce. A lot of times chambers are dialed into connecting a company with the community. Start there first. You'll get a cheap and highly effective training or leadership development, some form of employee engagement opportunity with that.
Yeah, that's good.
I definitely see, Nic, over all these years of interviewing people, not only internally, but for other companies, because we're representing thousands of companies. We have to learn about their culture and what they're looking for and how they behave and match talent to those companies. But what I hear from the job applicants is, I want to work for a company that wants to make a difference in their community. And I think maybe baby boomers and traditionalists, that was just something that was just a part of them. But it was maybe more, now it's actually almost required for people when they're applying for work.
It's interesting, because that was my next question. So I wanted to keep talking about that. My next question was, as you're talking with local employers or candidates, associates going into these roles, you've obviously said that you're hearing a lot about that, but what else? Like, what specifically are they talking about when it comes to values, purpose, community impact? Yeah,
I think the person who's choosing, and you talk about it a lot, is wanting to work for an employer of choice. They want to work for a company that cares deeply about them and their family as well as the community. And I think especially today, the generations that are in the workforce care deeply about their community, and they want their community to be stronger and better, and they want everyone to have a great sense of belonging in their community. So they're looking for a company that cares and has those same type of values. And so it's a very intentional thing. They're reading their website. They're reading all of their reviews. They're reading the bios of their employees. They're reading what they're involved in. They're reading where they're spending their time as a company, what they're spending their time on, what they're investing in. So it's a very well-researched, very intentional decision by job seekers when they're choosing to look at a company.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I've always said there's nothing wrong with a good humble brag when it comes to some of these companies. Obviously they don't do it for that purpose, but there's a benefit, especially when you're looking at talent. There's a benefit to humble bragging about your social impact because people see that and they want to be a part of that, and your community is getting larger. Yeah, but Steve, I got a question for you. Feel free to jump in on that as well. But I want to speak. I want you, maybe both of you, I want you to speak directly to some of the business leaders who may be skeptical, feel stretched thin. We talked about lack of time, maybe lack of resources. What's the business case for investing time, money, and energy into social responsibility?
Yeah, great question. Well, I first of all, I would say that webinar, I'd say go see the webinar because there's a lot of compelling data that shows the business case on that. The core business case, though, would be employee engagement and kind of what Janis mentioned, all of the benefits that come along with that. The data is irrefutable. I mean, Deloitte is big. Every few years, they'll do a big study to show this. But it's not just Deloitte, it's Gallup, and your organization out there. They show that the business case kind of makes for itself. Companies that are engaged and investing in things like volunteer time, encouraging their employees to volunteer, that have a corporate foundation, that are investing time and money into it, they have better stats all the way around, lower turnover, higher retention, and then they tend to attract some of the best talent. It's difficult to measure the best talent necessarily, but look at the company performance that usually follows the best talent. So I think it was one of my favorite studies, and there's empirical peer-reviewed evidence to show this. It was from the mid to late teens. Harvard Business School did a study on corporate social responsibility and sustainability, and basically, companies that score high in CSR, they outperform. I think they had a 4.8% alpha, meaning their stock performed 4.8% better than the S&P 500 or than the market at that time. So, I mean, that's kind of where the whole concept of ESG, environmental social governance investing, came from. Was there was evidence that links, companies that are authentically investing in CSR. Just perform better. So since ESG is the waters have been muddied a little bit over recent years because a lot of companies that weren't authentic are trying to get in on it from a reporting and from a communication standpoint. So, but the concept is still very solid in that if you invest in CSR, then the statistics show that your company is more likely to perform better.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, can you both just give some practical steps, and then I'm gonna touch base on what companies can go wrong. How can they go wrong with this? But can we just give some practical steps? We talked about Brand of Blue a little bit. You mentioned some other things, big or large. What are some practical things that companies can do? Because you just give the business case, they perform better. What are some practical first steps they could do, or just something easy they can get involved with? It doesn't have to be maybe like a huge formal program or something. They just kind of check in every now and then.
Well, what I would do is I went to, what are some of the larger local nonprofits? Have a phone call with them, and explain to them, look, I'm interested. We're spread super thin. I want to do something. Challenge them. It's in their best interest to get hooked up with a major company in the area, right? Or even a small company, anybody that can supply them with volunteerism or with donations, a nonprofit would be interested in. So a very simple step would be have a phone call with them, grab lunch with a local nonprofit leader, pick their brain. Because odds are, for us, it was the United Way. The United Way, basically, they were created to make CSR easy on local companies. So that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. What do you think, Janis?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small business, and this isn't something that we started, when we had more people. It's just always been who we have. I think one thing you have to understand as a leader is it doesn't have to be some really formal program. I think getting started, our partners out in the community right now, they're standing ready. So one little thing that we did was we have a weekly team meeting. We made a decision that once a month we're going to bring in a community partner to talk about what they do, talk to the team about it, hand out information, and let's all get to know who our community partners are in the community. Some of those relationships morphed into some of our employees went and volunteered there. Some really took an interest in it and went through their training. So we brought people in and started exposing our employees to these amazing community partners. We developed relationships with them, and then sooner or later we're doing even more with them. I also think that I know people sometimes get sensitive about committees, but if you have employees that are working for you that are genuinely interested in really a community type initiative or committee, and they want to do it, you're not making them do it or forcing people to do it. But I think when people come together that are really passionate about that, and then they start coming up with ideas for the rest of the team.
Right.
And so I think even some of those small things, they don't have to be big. But I also think, companies can sponsor events they're passionate about and bring employees along with them and celebrate with these nonprofits and learn more about what they are. And certainly volunteering is always great. But I think sometimes we think it has to be so formal and so big and so planned out, but really just taking one step at a time. And I can say as a small business owner, we started off with 5 people. So that didn't have this huge bandwidth, but we made a decision that certainly we wanted to always be making sure that we were supporting our community in one way or another. And we just found ways to be able to do that.
Yeah. And kind of to piggyback on that, for me, another way would be just find out, simple activity you can do is find out what your employees are doing now. Because I guarantee you're going to have some employees that are volunteering their time.
Yeah. What are they passionate in?
What are they passionate about? And maybe highlight it. I mean, if you have a newsletter or an intranet site or whatever, throw it up on there. And, and if you're really serious about it, I'm sure you're going to have people, kind of the grassroots thing, people that are passionate about some things. If there's something in there that you like, they're probably more than willing to open it up on their own time or in addition to their day job. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything formal. It doesn't have to cost any money, So leverage what your people are doing now. Understand what they're doing and leverage what they're doing now. That would be another super quick way to get something going.
Those are both really, really good thoughts. And something we said earlier is sticking in my mind too is make it easy. And what would you guys think about making it fun? Something we do here is in years past is we kind of, we have some pretty competitive people when it comes to internal staff, and we kind of formed some teams and we competed to see who could give the most to this organization during this time. And it was pretty fun, and it definitely incentivizes a little bit other than, the impact of giving to somebody, but it just made it a fun environment. I mean, other than make it easy or make it fun, like what are some other things we could do?
I think we always want to inspire generosity. I think we were born to be generous people. And so I think sometimes you need to be in an environment that inspires that. And however you want to look at generosity, it could be, your time, it could be your talents, it could be, fun, certainly. It could be joining, an organization. But I think it's fun when people get connected to generosity.
To the cause, yeah.
And you can just see that energizes them. And so some people are energized by going out and helping at an encampment, for instance, and the adventure of that. Some people might be energized by totally different things, but I think being exposed to them. I also think something that's really important is we've learned so much about our community. We've learned so much about people and just what they're facing and what's it like to walk in their shoes. And I think having that opportunity has also makes an employee group more just and more generous and provide hope, as well as really understanding how to walk alongside someone at a very difficult time of their life. So I do think that some of that exposure is really important, and I think it's made our organization certainly a much more inclusive organization.
Competition rocks. I mean, it's a fantastic way. So let me give you an example. Adopt a highway, which here in Michigan, you pick up trash alongside the road, especially when it's an 85, 90-degree day out. It's difficult to make that fun.
Right.
So how about you give everybody, this is what we did in the past, you give everybody pedometers and you say, all right, we have about 12 teams. The one who gets the most steps, gets a prize of some sort, right? Gets highlighted. And that's what we did, and gave them Fitbits at the time. And next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, are you picking up trash on the next groups? Because just why you're padding your numbers here, trying to get more steps.
Yeah.
That's cheating. So, but it was fun. It was all in good nature. So that's highly effective. If otherwise, I would say choose the event that you want. Don't be afraid to be a little bit picky. If you can find an event that leverages your business model or leverages your employee skill sets, like for example, our IT folks, they volunteered for I believe it was for a elderly care facility, hooking up computers, showing the older people how to use computers and so forth, and they all got a huge kick out of it and felt good, and they were leveraging their skill set outside. It wasn't completely out of their comfort zone, but enough out of their comfort zone to feel special, So you got to pick the right event if you really want to make an impact, or do something, make it fun, like competitive, have some fun with it that way.
Yeah. I mean, but both of what you guys are saying is so true and so good. Such strong advice. I want to look at the vice or the alternative of that. Where do you think companies can go wrong when it comes to launching a giving or volunteer community impact initiative?
I'm not sure there's a downside necessarily. I'm not sure that, I mean, as long as you're not involved with a controversial, there might be a controversial kind of, charity or nonprofit that not everybody agrees with. That's obviously a possibility, or something that's unvetted. You're working with somebody that's not really a charity at all. You hear horror stories about that, but as long as you're working with a vetted, reputable, group, the only thing I can think of where there's a potential downside would be, your OSHA or your safety rep might be, dialed in and afraid that our safety folks are not like us picking trash up alongside the highway because 25, 30 years ago, somebody was hit by a car. Now, the details of that, they were intoxicated, and there was more than it wasn't just a pure accident, but still that rumor runs thin, and rightfully so. The company has a right to vet that activity. Otherwise, I think wasted time, if you didn't get much out of it, or if you stood around a lot because it wasn't a well-planned event, that's probably the worst that I've heard.
Yeah. Well, let me, that's a really good point. Let me add something to that. What companies do you think, what mistakes do you think companies are making when it comes to forming or trying to launch these things? Like, obviously we want to do these. We don't want to just do it as a one-off thing, but make it sustainable, make it part of the culture. What mistakes are companies making that you've seen?
For me, the top two that immediately come to mind is, the first one is they don't get leadership involvement. There's a disconnect between the leaders doing it and the employees doing it. Then that almost guarantees that it's going to fizzle. Okay, it may not be today or tomorrow, but it's probably going to fizzle at some point in time. So leadership, the more engaged leadership is, the more likely that it's going to be successful. So that's a big thing that causes it to fail. The other thing is not engaging your employees. A lot of times a company will just assume this is what we're going to do, and employees are going to get behind it, and it may not be a topic that employees are into. So I think getting leadership involved and engaging our employees up front on it are two very important activities that, if not done, increases the lack of success that you might have.
Absolutely. What do you think?
I would say that I think sometimes we've heard maybe that it's top down, but it's almost like there's not a choice, or it's something we're doing, but it doesn't feel authentic. It's maybe checking a box, but it's not rooted in purpose and meaning or connection. And so I think there definitely has to be, the employees have to feel that authenticity from leadership, and also in being a part of it. And how does it connect to me, and how can I make a difference in that initiative? So I think sometimes it's not properly communicated, and then maybe it doesn't feel, nobody wants to feel like they're being made to do something, especially with this kind of thing. They want to be involved, they want to do that. So I think it's all how it's inspired.
No, I mean, that's great. When thinking through how, I'm going to do from both perspectives, because you were bottom up and then you were top down. Thinking through, top down, what are some easy ways that they can communicate the purpose and to make it genuine for their employees?
Well, I think certainly asking your employees, what they're passionate about. Over the years, we've done a lot of different surveys about what our employees are passionate about. They're very engaged. So I think making sure it also connects to our work, because we help people sometimes at a very difficult time of their life in terms of loss of a job. We also help a very vulnerable community in some of the work that we do. And so I think what we found is that when it's been connected to the work we do, but it even enhances it, even elevates it, it makes even more of a difference, then that is a great place to start, because it makes sense that we would be doing that. So I think really making sure that your employees, you're getting the pulse of what they're passionate about, what they're interested in, and what they would engage in. And then I think making sure that then it's connected very closely, so there's only maybe a few degrees off of the connection with our work. And then I think really making it fun and engaging, and coming at it in different ways. We've done so many different things, but we do it. It's always sort of a surprise sometimes about how we're gonna do it. I also think sometimes companies, we try to be all things to all people, or we do too many things. So I think just a warning, I'm probably speaking to myself, but maybe I've seen some companies do really, really, really well with, picking one thing. Maybe they're adopting a school, for instance, but in that school, you've got parents, and you've got teachers, and you've got students, and you've got so many needs. It's obviously under-resourced, most of our schools. And so you get all these connections from all different levels. But if you stay with that, you get to see the impact over time. And I think that impact over time is also something that's truly so meaningful for people, when they can see the difference that they've made in a student's life, in a teacher's life, in a school. I mean, one of our companies adopted a school, and they've done it for years. And that school, from where they were to where they are now, the students are higher performing because they have the resources they need. The parents are happier. The teachers are happier because they have what they need that they didn't have before. And certainly that same student is going to graduate, probably have more success in their life. And so there's just so many different things that can happen from those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic. Steve, on the other end of that, let's say there's an HR leader, or a director or manager of some sort, and they're listening to this, and they know their teams are going to want to be involved with this, but maybe there's disconnect from leadership, and maybe this is not something that leadership really wants to tackle right now. What advice can you give them to communicate that business case to them?
That's a great question.
Oh, geez. The first thing I would say is don't assume. Okay. Leaders, especially a manager, especially in, the higher you go and bigger you get, don't assume that they've put much, that they have a lack of interest. A lot of times management is just about plugging holes, right? And it's hectic, it's distracting. And I would say easily 8, maybe 9 times out of 10, whenever I went to our executive leaders or my immediate manager about an idea on this, they were very supportive of it. And if I made their life easier, they gladly participated. I just had to tell them when and where, and they were all in. So yeah, that's the biggest piece of advice I can get is don't assume that they don't engage your leadership on it. If you're an HR or an ops manager or somebody and you're looking to get something going, do your homework, find out what employees are into, talk about what some of the benefits would be and those kinds of things, but engage your leadership. Don't be afraid to do that.
No, that's so good. Yeah, don't assume. Okay, so for both of you, let's say, just to piggyback off that a little bit, if a leader's listening and wants to take action, whether it's, right away or not, what is one practical step that they could take in the next 30 days to connect their business more meaningfully to their community?
Well, I might say start with a survey or a pulse survey with your employees and ask them about, what would they want to, invest in, what's important to them, what are they passionate about, how would they like to make a difference as an organization, and start there, and then maybe bring in a community partner in that area or an expert in that area to start talking about that. But I would say it's very important to involve your employees and hear what do a pulse check with them.
Yeah. What do you think?
100% agree with that. And then I'm going to say might be a little controversial to some people. I don't know, but I would say, what's the business benefit? Start with that. I mean, your business, there is not only is there nothing wrong with looking for and identifying and capitalizing on a business benefit from this, but that's what makes it sustainable. That's kind of the whole concept behind CSR is that you're balancing all of that. So if your employee base is higher performing because you have CSR programs, that's just going to make it more likely to continue, right? So what's the business benefit? Ask yourself, what need do I have here? Do I want to increase the engagement of my employees? That's a legitimate goal that you might have. Do I want to lower the attrition rate? Do I want to look more attractive to potential talent? Because we know in this area, I want to attract more tech talent. So what can I do to look more attractive to that? Absolutely. So engaging your employees is critical, but I also think as a business leader, you need to look at the long-term aspect of it. And the long-term aspect is if I can tie this into a business benefit, it's going to be way more sustainable.
That's so
Very
good.
impactful too.
And impactful. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Any final thoughts from either one of you? This was so good.
Well, I'm just thank you for the opportunity here, and it's great. I think Express is a fantastic example of walking the talk in this space, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to talk to you guys and to have done the webinar because, you're successful and because you're creating shared value, and that's how business leaders need to be thinking things. Don't just look quarter to quarter or year to year. Look long term. What's the shared value that I want to create? And always have that in the back of your mind, and you significantly increase the odds of being successful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say after being in business for 30 years that there's great needs in our community. And business is not just in business to produce a product or a service, and they are in business to make their community stronger and better. And so I just think that it's important for business leaders to recognize how they can make a difference in their community, how they can help their community be stronger. And so that's what I would say is that there is great need. And our community, any community partner right now would just welcome business engagement.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, thank you, Janis. Thank you, Steve. If you heard anything here and you want to know more, please reach out to us at frontlineon.com. We'd love to connect you with Steve or Janis to learn more about the experience that they have and just to, help you figure out a plan to how to impact a, corporate social responsibility impact initiative in your organization. Here at Frontline Training Solutions, we develop people, we inspire growth, and we unlock potential. Please go watch the webinar, The Giving Advantage. Steve did such a great job on it. It's free on our archive. We have so many other webinars and podcasts there that you can listen to for any sort of workplace challenge and solution that you can think of. We've got it there. We want to talk to you. We want to help you. Thanks for joining us on The Frontline. Thanks again, Janis. Thanks again, Steve.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Steve.